The conference room goes silent. 7 faces stare at me across the mahogany table. Dr. Patricia Morrison holds up a printed journal article. Nature, Volume 615, published 3 weeks ago. Dr. Jang, she says. Her voice cuts like glass. Can you explain why your dissertation data appears identical to Dr. Hayes's publication? My throat closes. I look at the paper. The graphs are mine. The methodology is mine. Every single word of the discussion section is lifted from my draft. But the author line reads, Richard P. Hayes, PhD. No co-authors. No acknowledgments. Just him. That's my research, I whisper. Dr. Morrison's eyebrow raises. Your research? This was published on November 2nd. You submitted your dissertation on November 18th, 16 days later. The room tilts. I grip the table edge. My knuckles go white. I wrote that in August, I say. My voice shakes. Dr. Hayes is my supervisor. He had access to everything. Are you accusing a tenured professor of academic theft? Dr. Chen interrupts. He leans back, crosses his arms. That's a serious allegation. Hayes sits at the end of the table. He doesn't look at me. His face shows perfect concern, disappointment, the expression of a mentor betrayed. I'm disappointed, May, he says softly. I thought we had trust. My chest constricts. 6 years. 6 years of 80-hour weeks, sleeping in the lab, missing my grandmother's funeral because he said the experiments couldn't wait, watching him present my work at conferences while I sat in the audience. And now this. This defense is suspended, Dr. Morrison announces. She closes her folder. The committee needs to investigate potential academic misconduct before we can proceed. The other members stand. File out. Leave me alone with my stolen research and the man who took everything. But let me back up. I arrived at Stanford 6 years ago with 1 suitcase and a full scholarship. Molecular biology PhD program. Top 5 in the nation. My parents in Beijing sold their apartment to pay for my flight. Dr. Richard Hayes ran the cancer therapeutics lab. 55 years old, silver hair, published in Nature, Cell, Science. Everyone wanted to work for him. I felt lucky when he accepted me. The first year was normal. Classes, rotations, lab meetings where I mostly listened. Hayes seemed brilliant, charming. He remembered everyone's birthdays, brought bagels on Fridays. The red flags started small. In my second year, I presented preliminary data at a lab meeting, a novel approach to targeting resistant cancer cells. Hayes nodded throughout, said it was promising. 2 weeks later, he presented the exact same concept at a conference, told the audience it was our lab's new direction, didn't mention my name once. I told myself it was normal. Principal investigators present lab work. That's how it works. Then he started rewriting my papers. I'd submit a draft. He'd return it completely changed. His name moved to first author. Mine pushed to second. Standard practice, he said. PI always goes first on foundational work. It wasn't standard. I checked. Other students in the department published first author papers. But whenever I questioned it, Hayes would smile, pat my shoulder. You're still learning the politics, May. Trust me on this. My third year, I made a breakthrough. Discovered a compound that reversed chemotherapy resistance in triple-negative breast cancer. The results were extraordinary. 93% response rate in mouse models. Hayes's eyes lit up when I showed him the data. Don't tell anyone yet, he said. We need to file patents first. And May, keep your lab notebook in my office for security. I handed it over, every page of data, every experiment, every observation. That's when he started blocking my publications. I'd write a manuscript. He'd say it needed more data, more controls. Meanwhile, his publication record exploded. 4 papers in 6 months, all from his lab, all with his name prominently featured. I worked harder, stayed later, Ran more experiments. Thought if I just proved myself enough, he'd let me publish. My visa was tied to his funding. My stipend came from his grants. He controlled everything. Fourth year. Hayes stopped pretending. I wrote a manuscript about the resistance reversal compound. Complete draft. Ready for submission. Hayes called me into his office. This needs significant revision, he said. He deleted my name from the author line entirely, added 3 of his collaborators I'd never met. Dr. Hayes, I did all this work. You performed experiments, he interrupted, under my guidance, using my funding, in my lab. This is how academia works. I stood there, frozen. He stared at me until I left. 2 weeks later, I found the manuscript submitted to Cell, Hayes' sole corresponding author. My name buried in the acknowledgments. Technical assistance, meters. Zhang. Technical assistance. 4 years of work reduced to a footnote. I confronted him, his office, door closed, my voice shaking with rage. You can't do this. Hayes leaned back in his chair, smiled. Can't I? Your visa depends on remaining in good standing as my student. Your stipend comes from my grants. You have no publications, no recommendations, no options. The threat was clear. Complain and he'd destroy me. Besides, he continued, who would believe you? I'm a named professor. You're an international student who can barely write grammatically correct English. That last part hit like a fist. My English was perfect, but he knew it would sting. Knew it would make me doubt myself. I walked out, went back to the lab, cried in the bathroom for 20 minutes, then dried my eyes and kept working. Because what choice did I have? 5th year got worse. Hayes started rewriting my conference abstracts, changed my conclusions, made my work sound like his ideas. At one conference, he presented my poster session work as a keynote, stood on stage with my slides, never mentioned my name. Afterward, people congratulated him. He accepted their praise. I stood in the back of the auditorium. Invisible, he blocked me from collaborating with other labs. When Dr. Sarah Chen at UCSF reached out about my research, Hayes told her I was struggling with experimental design and not ready for independent collaborations. He CC'd me on the email, wanted me to see it. The isolation was calculated, deliberate. He cut me off from every possible ally. My lab mates noticed. But they were scared too. Hayes had ended careers before. Everyone knew it. There was a former student named David who'd complained about authorship. Hayes had him dismissed for fabricating data. David never worked in science again, so nobody helped. They kept their heads down, worked on their own projects, pretended not to see what Hayes was doing to me. February, 6th year, I finished the breakthrough paper, the complete resistance reversal mechanism, 18 months of work. The data was undeniable, revolutionary. It would save lives. I submitted the draft to Hayes, waited for feedback. 3 days later, my phone buzzed at 3 a.m. Email notification. Google Scholar alert. New publication by Richard P. Hayes. Novel mechanism for chemotherapy resistance reversal in triple-negative breast cancer. Published in Nature. I opened the paper on my phone, hands shaking, screen blurring. Every graph was mine, every figure, every table. The entire discussion section was copied word for word from my draft. Even the acknowledgments were my original text. But the author line showed only one name, Richard P. Hayes. No co-authors, no contributors, nothing. He'd stolen everything. I threw up, right there in bed, stumbled to the bathroom, vomited until my stomach is empty, then sat on the cold tile floor and stared at the wall. 6 years gone. I called him at 6 a.m. He answered on the first ring, like he'd been waiting. May, I assume you saw the publication. You stole my research. My voice was hollow. I refined your experiments, he said calmly. Fixed your flawed methodology. You should be grateful I salvaged something publishable from your work. That methodology was perfect. Those were my experiments. Prove it. He paused. Oh, wait. You can't, because your lab notebooks are in my office under lock and key, and they show that I supervised every aspect of this research. That's what they'll show if anyone asks. My heart stopped. He'd rewritten my notebooks, or destroyed them. Or both. Now, he continued, about your defense, I think we should schedule it for May. That gives you 3 months to prepare. Of course, you'll need to present original work, not anything we've already published. I'm sure you can come up with something. 3 months. My visa expired in 60 days. I can't do new research in 3 months. Then maybe you're not ready to defend. His voice turned cold. Maybe you need another year, or 2. Or maybe you should consider withdrawing from the program entirely. Some people just aren't cut out for academia. He hung up. I sat in my apartment, stared at my phone, the nature paper open on the screen. My entire career stolen, published under someone else's name, and now he was going to fail my defense, destroy my visa status, send me back to China with nothing, no PhD, no publications, 6 years wasted, my parents' sacrifice meaningless. That's when something inside me shifted. The fear burned away, left only rage, cold, focused, absolute. Hayes thought he'd destroyed me. He was wrong. I didn't sleep. Spent the night making a list. Evidence I needed, people I could contact, organizations that investigate academic fraud. First, my lab notebooks. Hayes had them locked in his office, but I had 6 years of backup documentation. Every email I'd ever sent him with data, every manuscript draft with tracked changes, every presentation file. I'd backed everything up to 3 separate cloud services. Paranoid habit. Now it would save me. Second, witnesses. I wasn't Hayes' only victim. I knew that. Everyone knew that. But nobody talked about it publicly. Fear kept them silent. I started reaching out. Carefully. David Martinez, the student Hayes accused of data fabrication 4 years ago. I found him on LinkedIn, working at a biotech company in San Diego. Sent him a message. Hayes is doing it again. Will you help me stop him? He called within an hour. I've been waiting for someone to fight back, David said. His voice shook. I have emails, lab notebooks, everything that proves he fabricated the accusations against me. I kept it all. We talked for 3 hours. He connected me with 2 other former students, Dr. Priya Sharma, Dr. James Wu. Both had similar stories. Research stolen, credit taken, careers damaged. Both had documented everything. We weren't just victims. We were witnesses with evidence. Third, official channels. I filed a formal complaint with Stanford's Office of Research Integrity. Attached 147 pages of documentation. Email chain showing Hayes taking credit for my work. Drafts proving I wrote the Nature paper. Time-timed files showing I generated the data months before his publication. The administrator who received my complaint looked shocked. Dr. Zhang, this is extensive. We'll need to investigate. How long does that take? 6 to 8 months typically. My visa expired in 53 days. I need this expedited. I said, Dr. Hayes is threatening to fail my defense to prevent me from reporting him. If I lose my visa status, I lose everything. She made a note. We'll do what we can. Fourth, external pressure. I contacted the National Science Foundation. Hayes Lab received $2.30 million in NSF grants. Federal funding. That meant federal oversight. The NSF Office of Inspector General took academic fraud seriously, very seriously. I submitted a detailed report, included evidence of Hayes misrepresenting research contributions on grant applications, using stolen data to secure funding, violating federal research ethics regulations. They assigned an investigator within a week. Fifth, legal protection. I hired an attorney specializing in academic misconduct. Cost me $5,000 I didn't have, put it on 3 credit cards. Worth every penny. My lawyer sent Hayes a letter. Cease all retaliation against Dr. Mei Zhang. Any attempt to fail her defense, damage her visa status, or otherwise interfere with her academic progress will result in immediate legal action. Hayes' response came through his own attorney. Dr. Hayes maintains that all research conducted in his laboratory belongs to the institution and himself as principal investigator. He categorically denies any wrongdoing. Translation: he was preparing to fight. Good, so was I. The emergency ethics hearing was scheduled for April 18th, 23 days before my visa expired. The committee consisted of 5 senior faculty members, the dean of research, and the NSF investigator. Hayes showed up with 2 attorneys. Expensive suits, leather briefcases. They sat on either side of him like guards. I sat alone, my cheap laptop open in front of me, my evidence organized into folders. Dean Richardson opened the hearing. Dr. Hayes, you're here to respond to serious allegations of research theft and academic misconduct. Dr. Zhang has provided substantial documentation. Would you like to make a statement? Hayes stood, adjusted his tie, looked directly at me. I've dedicated 30 years to mentoring students, he said. His voice was steady, confident. Dr. Zhang is a talented researcher, but she's also struggling with the pressures of completing her PhD. These accusations stem from stress and misunderstanding. I published that Nature paper using data from multiple students over several years. May contributed, yes, but so did many others. The work was collaborative. The authorship reflects my role as principal investigator and primary intellectual contributor. He sat down. His attorneys nodded approvingly. Dr. Zhang, Dean Richardson looked at me. Your response? I opened my laptop. Connected it to the projector? This is my original manuscript draft, I said. My voice didn't shake. Dated August 14th. Note the tracked changes, every edit, every addition, all made by me. Zero contributions from Dr. Hayes beyond looks good comments. I clicked to the next slide. This is Dr. Hayes' Nature paper, published November 2nd. Note that the discussion section is copied word for word from my August draft. Identical, 3 paragraphs, 847 words, not a single comma different. Hayes' attorney leaned forward. Coincidental similarity doesn't prove I'm not finished. I cut him off. Clicked again. These are 73 emails where Dr. Hayes explicitly acknowledges, this is my research, quote, your resistance reversal work is groundbreaking. Quote, this is your project, but I'll guide the publication strategy. Quote, your name will definitely be on the paper. The committee members were writing notes, fast. I pulled up my phone, set it to speaker, played an audio recording. Hayes' voice filled the room. Your lab notebooks are in my office, under lock and key, and they show that I supervised every aspect of this research. That's what they'll show if anyone asks. His face went white. California is a one-party consent state, I said. That recording is legal. It's also evidence of deliberate evidence tampering and witness intimidation. The NSF investigator spoke for the first time. Dr. Hayes, did you alter Dr. Zhang's lab notebooks? No. I simply, Hayes stammered. Because we executed a warrant last week, the investigator continued. Seized all laboratory records. Our forensic team found significant discrepancies between the original notebook entries and later additions. Different ink, different handwriting, attempts to backdate entries to support your authorship claims. One of Hayes' attorneys put his head in his hands. Dr. Zhang, Dean Richardson said, you mentioned other victims? 3 former students are here to testify, I said. David Martinez stood up from the back row. Priya Sharma, James Wu, they walked to the front. One by one, they presented their evidence. Research stolen, credit taken, careers damaged, a 15-year pattern of systematic fraud. Hayes tried to interrupt. His attorneys tried to object, but the evidence was overwhelming, undeniable. The hearing lasted 6 hours. By the end, Hayes sat slumped in his chair, silent, defeated. Dean Richardson called for a vote. All in favor of upholding Dr. Zhang's complaint, 5 hands raised. Unanimous. Dr. Hayes, you are suspended immediately pending formal termination proceedings. Your lab is closed. Your grants are frozen. You are banned from campus effective immediately. Security will escort you out. Hayes stood, looked at me one last time. His expression was pure hatred. You destroyed your career, he said. No, I replied. I saved it. You destroyed yours. Haynes' termination became official 3 weeks later. Stanford stripped him of tenure. The university launched a formal investigation into 30 years of publications, found evidence of fraud in 47 papers. Nature retracted his paper, published a correction listing me as sole author, added an editorial note about academic integrity violations. The NSF investigation uncovered $3.20 million in fraudulent grant claims. Hayes was charged with federal research misconduct, faced $750,000 in fines and potential prison time for grant fraud. His attorney negotiated a plea deal, 2 years probation, permanent ban from receiving federal research funding, Complete forfeiture of his pension. His reputation was destroyed. Completely. Irreversibly. My defense was rescheduled for May 15th. New committee. No drama. They reviewed my work carefully. Knew it was mine. The defense lasted 90 minutes. I passed with distinction. Dr. Zhang, PhD. My parents flew from Beijing for graduation. My mother cried through the entire ceremony. My father took 300 photos. I wore my cap and gown and felt nothing but relief. The Nature paper with my name opened doors, job offers from 6 universities, postdoc positions at Harvard, MIT, Stanford. I accepted a faculty position at UC Berkeley. They gave me Hayes's former NSF grant funding, $2.30 million to start my own lab. Poetic justice. David, Priya, and James all got public acknowledgments. Universities reopened their cases. David was formally exonerated. Priya received a written apology. James got his PhD finally awarded. 7 years late, but awarded. We stayed in touch. Formed a support network for students dealing with advisor abuse. It's needed. More common than people want to admit. I hired 3 PhD students for my new lab. First thing I tell them, your research is yours. Your name goes first on your papers. Always. No exceptions. I also tell them about Hayes, about what happens when power goes unchecked. My lab published 4 papers last year, all with proper attribution, all with my students as first authors. We're working on the next generation of resistance reversal compounds. The work Hayes tried to steal is saving lives now. Cancer patients are responding to treatments based on my research. He wanted to destroy me. Instead, I became everything he pretended to be. A real scientist, an ethical mentor, someone who deserves the title doctor. Sometimes I think about that defense hearing, the moment his face went white, when he realized he'd lost everything. And I feel no sympathy. None. He had choices. Every step, every stolen paper, every destroyed career. He chose to be a predator. I chose to fight back. That's the difference between us.